Hello and welcome to the project La Vie en Rose. This is a variation of my older project, A Tale of Dragons and Roses. I will tell you at the end of the video, I will tell you a little bit more about that. We are starting with 5 11C beads that we string, and we make a ring of these beads by passing back through the first bead, and I reinforce the entire round to fix the thread so that it's not getting too loose here. And then I make my first right angle weave unit, and therefore I string 111A, 1B, 1A, and I pass back through the 11C that I was exiting from. Then I'm weaving forward into the first 11 C bead, into the next 11 C bead here of the starting round. I string 111A, 111B, and I pass through the side bead of the previous unit, and again through the 11 C bead I was exiting from. This move is what I'm doing to secure my thread tension. Just hold it between the two fingers here. And then again, I'm stringing 111A, 111B, pass the side bead of the previous unit and the 11B I was exiting from. And then I forward into the next 11 C bead of the starting round again. There's a repetitive in the round. This is the last time that we repeat this step, just to see it again. And then for the last unit, we pass into the last 11 C bead here of our starting round. And then we close the ring, and therefore we weave up or step up through the side bead of the very first unit in the round, the 11A bead here that's on the side. Then we string 111B bead and pass down through the 11A of the previous unit, the 11C of the basic ring, and the 11A of the very first unit where we stepped up to. That's where we're exiting. And then you will weave once in the round through the 5 11B beads here on the top, or at the top of that structure. Now, once they are snuggled up, we start with our little rose element, and therefore we string 4 11B beads, 1 11A, 1 O bead alternating 3 times, then 1 more 11A bead, and then we pass back through the 11B that we were exiting from and right forward into the next 11B of the round. Then we repeat this bead count, and we add the same loop of beads to each of the 11B beads in the round. And as you can see, we're not doing right angle weave here, although it might look like the same stitch in the first place. But if it would be right angle weave, we would be sharing our beads of the new loop with the previous loop, or the other way around. There are no connective beads in between them, so that are shared in between adjacent loops. So we're just actually only making loops in the round here. All of them are in the same way. And now you can learn another German word, because at this point I would say in German that they look like Kraut und Rüben, which is like, kraut, probably you know, this is like the cabbage, and Rüben is turnips. I don't know where this is coming from, but this is when you didn't clean up your room. They would say it looks like Kraut und Rüben in your room. And it looks like Kraut und Rüben after this, the 5th loop here, because everything is just sticking around, but we will neaten it up soon. No worries. The last 11 here is sometimes hard to find, so you just have to push the other loops to the side, and then you will see it, and that's where you add your last loop. Before we make the step up to the top of one of these loops, we forward along the starting row, just go through another 2 positions here, at least 2 11B beads further around, and then you step up through one of the loops here. That's the second loop in the round that I made in the beginning, and that's where I'm starting from. And here I'm weaving up, and I'm exiting from the top 11B bead here of this loop. And you will see now I was going counterclockwise all the time in our beating direction. Now we will go clockwise because of this step up that we made in that loop. And I will always pass through the top 11 B beat of each loop that we have here. Make sure that your little loops are not twisted in the wrong direction. So you will always go through the 11 B beat in direction of the following 11 A beat in that loop. That's when you're in the right way around. If you're going the other way around, you will have your loop twisted, and that's not working then. Also make sure that the thread is not going along the outline here, but it's kind of easy to make. Once you made the first two of them, it's easy to make. You will see that. And you see here now when I'm getting to the end of this round, and when I pull the thread tight, everything is snuggling up and all my O beat components are on the outline, and the 11 B beats, they will gather in the center here. Then we have our little row structure done. I always weave another 2 or 3 beads further around here on the top. So just pass a second time through parts of the round until the beads are snuggled up and everything is looking neat and nice here. And after this step, we add another right angle weave round here. So you see I string 111A, 1C, 1A for my first unit. And then I forward into the next 11 B beat. They're a little bit below the surface here. They're a little bit down there, so it's might be a little bit fiddly to get through the beads in the first place. But it's not, the tension is not too tight in there, so it's kind of, you can always easily get through the beads here with your needle. Sometimes you have to push or move the bead a little bit so that it gets in the right position. So you see for the following units, we always string 111A, 111C, then pass to the side beat of the previous unit. The side beats here are the 11A, that's the first and the last unit that you string in your starting unit, and then the top beats are the 11C. Those are the beats that will end up in the top row of your right angle weave round. Now comes the step up here, the very last unit. So I step up to the side beat of the first right angle weave unit, add my last 11C beat here to the top, and then you will reinforce the 5 11 C beats here on the top to join them. And these 5 11C beats, they are already the starting point for the next for the first repetition of your pattern, because you remember you started this first flower or the first component by stringing 5 11C beats, and these are your 5 11C beats. So you start again from step 2, because stringing the 5 11C beats was of course step 1. So we make the step 2 again with these right angle weave units with the 11A beads on the sides and the 11B beads on the top. It's repetitive from here. And when you in the starting row, the beads are very, very tight together, and sometimes it's you have to go to one bead at a time. You can't go through 2 beats at once. But usually when you are in these further down the road rows, the beads are a bit more easier to move, and so you can always just go through 3 beats in a time or 2 beats in a time here to forward in the starting round. And you see here when I'm adding my bead on top, I can just go straight to the 3 other beads of that unit. It's not too tight here together. And that's okay also for the bangle. We want a soft structure that we can roll this bangle easily over our wrist. Now you reinforce this round here, and you remember then you make these loops that we're adding here on top. And then you just repeat this all the way around until your bangle has is the required length. And now we're zipping, and you see I'm exiting here. I'm stopping my last repetition after I finish this flower step. I'm not adding the right angle weave round on top. Instead, I'm making my zipping round, and therefore exiting from the 11B beat here on that one side. I string 111A, pass through 111C on that other end, string 111A, and pass back again through my 11B beat on the one side. And now I'm forwarding into the next 11B beat, string 1A, pass through the C on the other side, pass through the side 11A of the previous unit, and then back again through the 11B that I was exiting from. And you see it's the same stitch that we're doing when we're zipping, only that instead of stringing new 11C beads for these units, we pass through the matching 11C bead of the other end of our rope. That's the only difference. Otherwise, the thread path is exactly the same as we did for our right angle weave units. But if you pay attention here, you see I'm in the wrong beading direction. I'm going through my round clockwise, not counterclockwise. Why? Remember, at the end of the step up, at the end of the flower, my beading direction was the other way around. After that round, I can always change my beading direction and go back to my usual counterclockwise beading direction. And so here my zipping round is also going the other way around. Now here we are at the last unit. You see all the 4 beads are already there, so we're only passing through the 4 beads. When you are not familiar with the zipping process, one little tip, you need 5 11A beads for this zipping process. You have to add 5 11A beads. Just put these 5 11A beads aside, that you just work off that separate little pile, and then you can see when you have 1 bead left, then you skipped 1 position that needed to be zipped. When you need more than 5 beads, then you made something wrong. Just go back again and start it all over. It's always a good test just to work off the beads that you need. Then it's not happening that you lose your way here. Now, I'm showing you a part that I'm usually not showing in my instructions, but this is also a beginner's project, so I thought I'm showing you also how I'm securing my thread here by weaving along the structures, going a little bit forth and back, going through some parts where the thread is not so visible, weaving along right angle weave units, not going crisscross or something. But the point is, it's very important to secure your thread properly in a bangle. You don't have to tie knots or something. Just make sure that you are a little bit persistent when you're weaving in your thread. That's part of your beadwork. And if you're too lazy with the bangles, that's quite a lot of stress on the thread due to the movement, and we don't want the thread ends to slip out. Then you can cut off your thread at the end, and your first bangle is done, hopefully in the right length. Now you can try it and test it. Okay, here's the second bangle that we're doing, and in the second bangle we have 2 different components. We have this O-bead component with the rondelles in between, and we have a smaller component. And again, here we're starting with 5 11A beads this time for our starting round. And here I'm making a little mistake. I'm skipping my 111A bead. I don't know why I didn't realize that in the first place. But actually I skipped it. If you pay attention, you will see it later. But it's not important for the entire project. So just for those who notice that I skipped it here. Yeah, I did it. I confess. Now, we're making our right angle weave units here, and this time we string for the right angle weave units 111C, 1 O-bead, 111C. And here you can see already that this O-bead is actually a little bit too big for this right angle weave unit, but we will get along with that by adding some nice sparkling rondelles later on. Now, my starting round is very tight, because I made this mistake of skipping the beat. The funny thing is I didn't realize it when I was beating there at that point. I didn't realize why it was so stubborn there in the starting round, but doesn't matter, as I said. So you see, for the following units, I will always string 111C, 1O beat, pass through the 11C of the previous unit and the 11A of the starting round again. And then I'm forwarding into the next 11A here and do the same again, just once more. That was my third unit. Now I'm making my fourth unit. And then I'm forwarding into the last 11A beat of the starting round, make my step up through the 11C beat of the first unit here. Then I string one more O beat, and then I'm passing down through the 11C beat of the previous unit and the 11A beat of the starting round. Now, this, as I said, this is a very loose round here when you look at it, and the O beats are not very good in holding the thread tension here. And there's a little trick. We're just reinforcing the very fast last right angle weave unit that we were making here, and pull the thread tight, give it a good tug, and this is snuggling up the beads at that point, and then we make the step up and exit from one of the O beats to continue with the step. So weave up through one of the 11C beats or the next 11C beat here, and then we take a turn into the next O beat here, going in your preferred beating direction. The reinforcing really helps here. It's worth to make that extra step. Don't skip that. So now we string one rondelle and pass through the next O beat, and this will repeat 4 more times around. So we do it 5 times in total. And also these rondelles in between the O beats, they are not the masters of thread tension. So to get a better tension, we have to go another 1 or 2 times through the beats in the round. You will see that here when I'm reinforcing the round. I stop reinforcing in the moment when I can exit from one of the rondelles or O beats without pulling everything apart. You see here, just passing my needle through, it brings the beads apart, and there you can see that the rondelles are still very loose in between the O beats, but the further I go, the more tension I get. Now I'm the second time around, but you see I can still pull it loose, and so going one position further, and then you see I'm pulling the thread and nothing goes apart. So here I have a nice tension in that. So I'm exiting from one of the O beats here to start my next right angle weave round, and in the next right angle weave round I will be stringing 111C beat, 111A beat, 111C beat. I'm passing back through the O beat, that's the right angle weave unit. And now to get to the next O beat, we're passing through the rondelle and exit from the next O beat. The rondelles have nothing to do with the right angle weave stitch that we're doing. They are only the bridge in between the O beats that we use to go straight forward to the next position. They are covering my thread, if you want to say. So, but otherwise I'm making the classical right angle weave stitch. So exiting from the O beat, I will string my 11C, my 11A, I pass through the 11C of the previous unit and the O beat I was exiting from, and then I forward to the following rondelle into the next O beat. That's the only thing that the rondelle is doing in this step. Just help us to get forward to the next position without creating any visible thread here. Here I'm doing my last right angle weave unit. I'm weaving up to the side beat of the very first unit, and then I add my 11A beat here on top. That closes the ring. And then I'm just weaving once in the round through the 5 beads here, the 5 11A beads at the top. Now we start with the next unit, and therefore we string, we make one round in right angle weave again, and we string 111C, 1B, 111C for the first unit, and then for the following units we always string 111C, 1B, pass the side bead of the previous unit and the bead in the base. It's always the same. The stitch is always the same. As you can see here, we're just making that, completing that in the round. Always right away forward into the next bead of the starting round. Make the step up at the end of this round for the last unit at the last 11B bead here. And now we will not weave in the round through these 5 11B beads here. We just leave them as they are, and we just make our next right angle weave round, this time adding 11C beads on the side position and 11A beads in the top position. Just don't reinforce this round of 5 11B beads. In this way, we're forwarding straight ahead, so we're passing in the round, but by not reinforcing it, the gap between these 11B beads is a little bit looser, and at the end of this round we will go back to these 11B beads again and put beads in between them. That's why we didn't reinforce it in the first place, to just have a little more give in the position in between them. So you see, that's the last unit of this round. And now we're just going right away back to the 11, or we just exit from one of the 11B beads here. I was stepping up already, so I was going back down again. And now looking at the outline here, we just weave around in the round and add one 11C bead after each of the 11B beads. All the way around. And this little give allows us to put these 11 C beads in between here, and they are also just opening this round, making the round a little bit wider, so that this gives an extra balloon structure to this little component in here. That's already the second component. That's the second component is already finished here, and you remember we were starting our round or our first component on a round of 5 11A beads, and those 5 11A beads that you see here, they are already the starter round for your next O bead component. So we're making these two components alternating. It's also written in the instructions, it's described in the instructions, and yeah, there we go. You see, it's the next O bead component that I'm starting here. It's exactly the same as we did before. And for all the O bead rounds, it's always the same thing valid, that you reinforce the last unit in the round. If your units are still very, very loose and you feel like you really need more tension in there, you can even reinforce the entire round of right angle weave units on the O beads. Just what you should not do is weave in the round through the O beads to join them. That's not working, because that is only disturbing the position that you need, or yeah, it's filling the position that you need for your rondelle, where you want to put the rondelle in. So that's not looking nice if you reinforce the O beads to snuggle them up. Reinforce the right angle weave units, but not going through the O beads. Now, in our last repetition, we end with this row of 11B beads here on the top, where we actually later have to put the 11C beads in between. But before we do that, we have to complete the next right angle weave unit, and the next right angle weave row round will be our zipping round. Technically, it's the same thing that we did already when we zip the first bangle. I'm just giving you another view here. We're looking from the front, and I'm beading, now we're looking at the outline again, and you see here I'm beading counterclockwise now. In the round I'm working counterclockwise, so that's my usual beading direction, because here I was in the counterclockwise beading direction to begin with. We just make this zipping round or connecting round in the plain usual right angle weave stitch, adding 11 C beads here. It's 5 11 C beads that we're adding in this round. Again, you can put these beads to the side, but here in this structure it's a little bit easier to see that you get all the units, because they are not hidden in this rows as it was in the very first bangle that we were doing. So here it's a little bit easier and more obvious where you're weaving along. That's already the last unit here, and you see I'm weaving around my last 4 beads here that are already existing. And before you can secure your thread and everything, of course, we have to put our 11 C beads here in between the 11 B beads. But you see, I'm just reinforcing my last right angle weave unit to just increase the tension here a little bit, because it's always tends to be a little bit loose in the zipping round. Now I'm working in the round and add my 11 C beads, and you can see that it's easy to just twist this bangle inside out to add your beads here in the round, so you don't have to go along the inside or whatever of that bangle. You can just spin it or twist it in the direction as ever it is needed. 2 more positions, and after you did that, you can weave in your thread and secure it. And again, I'm showing you the process of securing the thread, that you get an idea of how I'm weaving that in and how far I'm going for weaving in. The important thing is, when you weave in thread, is always just not you go into one direction or even twice, 3 times in the same round. That's not as stable as taking a lot of turns, going left and right, going through a right angle weave structure, and then going through the next right angle weave structure and the other way around. So once you go clockwise, then you go counterclockwise, and so on. Then you go into the next round with the rondelles in between there. Just change your directions, go zigzag through the structure wherever you can go along. The more changes of direction you did, the better your thread will be fixed in the grid. So that's it. That's our second bangle, nice and soft. And now we make the third one. And the third one is actually a repetition of the units that you already know. We only make them with different colors and in a different arrangement. And see here, I'm starting with a round of 5 11A beads, and I'm adding my O bead component with the rondelle component here. And this time I'm stringing 1 11B, 1 O bead, 1 11B. So we have the 11 B beads on the sides and the O beads on the top. Otherwise, it's all the same as you did before. From the technique, it's the same. So I'm just skipping this a little bit here. It's just different colors. And here you will see, once we finish that first round here, then we put the rondelles in between there, and this already happened here. You reinforce the round as you did that before, and then you will add the right angle weave round here on top. Always push them a little bit up before you go to the next position, then pull the thread tight that pulls them in the right position, and then the next row is not getting too loose. Always just give them a little push to the top of the O bead. This round, again, it's the same, but we have here 11 B beads on the side and 11 A beads on the top. So it's just a different color, but it's the same structure that we did in the second bangle here for these kind of components. Then you weave through the 5 beads here at the top, the 5 11 A beads at the top. And these 5 11A beads are your starter for another right angle weave round, where we have 11 C beads on the sides and 11 B beads on the top. Just one plain right angle weave round here. And then we reinforce the 5 11B beads here on the top. And this is our starter round for our next little rows. And here we make the same loops as before, only that the instead of 11A beads, we're using 11C beads here on the outside. In the center, again, we had the 11B beads. You see here the 5. Otherwise, everything is made in the same technique as for the first rows. You can just look at it in the instructions. It's the same thing again. And here on the top, you see my beating direction already changed again into the into the clockwise direction. And I'm adding my right angle weave round here to the top using 11C beads on the side, 11A beads in the top position. And then these 5 11A beads here on the top, these are the same beads like in your starting round. So you repeat from here your rondelle component, alternating with the roses. And that's it. These are your 3 bangles. I hope you like them. As I said in the beginning, this is a variation of the Dragons and Roses necklace that I had in the past as a freebie on my website. But it was an older pattern, and I thought it might get some renewal for especially for beginners who might like to have an additional video sequence. The Dragons and Roses had dragon scale beads in there, which are not so suitable for a bangle. They might be prickly a little bit. So I just took the O beads. And I hope that you like this project and that you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you again soon. Of course, if you like to make this into a necklace, go for it. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time. Bye.